Hi everyone, I'm Cody with Buer Games, and this is the Outpost at Meerbridge, our first ever 1490 Doom starter set. Whether you find yourself here because you've picked up a copy for yourself already, or if you're curious, this video will serve as your guide to not only all of the contents that you'll find in the Outpost of Meerbridge, but it will serve as a tutorial. So we're going to crack this open and show you how you can get everything put together so you're ready for your first games of 1490 Doom. As you can see, when you purchase your first 1490 Doom starter set, all of the contents here are contained in one box. When you're playing the Outpost at Meerbridge, this rules booklet will serve as your guide. It's hand-designed for players who are new to Wargaming to introduce the concepts of 1490 Doom, as well as concepts to Wargaming in general in an escalated fashion. You can think of this as the perfect tutorial for someone who has perhaps never played a Wargame at all. In addition, you'll find this handy bag here that comes with 5 25mm bases. 4 of these will be bases that we mount our Doom Warriors on to play with, and one of them is an optional base that you may use for your resource cache. In addition, Outpost at Meerbridge comes with 2 dice for you to roll. 2 dice serves all of your needs in this starter set. In addition, each Doom Warrior has a very helpful reference card that you'll use, and each one of them is double-sided to reflect the additional abilities and gear that you will add to your rules as you play through the scenarios. In the beginning, you'll only play with Warriors' raw stats to keep the game simple and keep it easy to learn. But once you reach the final scenario, you'll add in extra equipment and a special rule. So when you play the game, make sure to have these cards on hand because they're very handy. The last thing that we'll want to take a look at is the playmat. This beautiful, illustrious map will serve as your battlefield. 1490 Doom is played on a circular battlefield, unlike many other war games and skirmish games. We felt it very important that you, as a starting player, have a high-quality thematic play space in order to battle upon. This mat is made from a performance textile that's machine washable, and as you can see, no matter how much you crumple this mat, it's very, very difficult to leave any sort of wrinkles. First, we're going to start with the terrain. 1490 Doom is a very vertical skirmish game, so it was just as important for this box to have a set of Doom Warriors for you to play with as it was for you to have a set of terrain to climb upon. The Outpost at Meerbridge comes with 3 towers at varying heights. One at 1 inch, one at 3 inches, and one at 5 inches. And each box, you'll receive this set of MDF terrain here. MDF can be popped out of their carrying cases, a lot like board games might have tokens that are contained within chits. So we're going to return here in just a second after I've popped out each one of these pieces, and then we'll show you how to put a tower together. Wonderful. Now we can take these individual pieces and we can build our terrain. As you can see, there are legs for the scaffolding that are meant to fit within the various sizes of platforms. The larger the top platform is, the shorter the scaffolding underneath it will be. So we're going to start by putting together our 1-inch high platform. You'll need a glue. Generally, we recommend using a gel type super glue to put together MDF terrain, as wood is porous and it tends to absorb glue pretty quickly. So using a gel type glue works really well. You can also use wood glue, or even something like Elmer's or school glue should hold together just fine. The key thing that you should note is, just like when putting together any other kind of miniature or any other type of terrain, you shouldn't need a lot. Not only do you not want to pile on the glue because it can diminish some of the details of your terrain or your models, but it doesn't take a whole lot of glue to hold things together. The first thing that we want to do is take each piece when it's dry and absent of glue and make sure that we understand how it all fits together. For this bottom platform, on all the short ends, you can see that there's a hole that's meant to perfectly slot these pegs that are on the ends of the long pieces. Once you do have the legs put together, that's when you'll want to grab your platform and put it over the top, because every one of these legs, once they go together, leaves 4 pegs up on the top of the scaffolding. And as you can see, the platform goes together quite easily. Once you have the legs together, there's very obvious and easy holes for you to push the top platform down through the pegs. We'll be back here in a minute as I'm going to glue together this platform so you can see how it looks all together. All right, I have a platform here that's all glued together, and as you can see, it goes together beautifully, holds intact, and is the perfect height to be a beginning platform for this particular set. I'm going to show you how to put together one more tower, because the way that the legs go together underneath our 3-inch tower and our 5-inch tower looks slightly different, but they're both the same. So with both the 3-inch tower and the 5-inch tower, unlike the legs under the previous one, you'll see that it doesn't have holes for each side to slot into. Instead, you'll just see that there's just a little gap for you to slide each gap together. Something to watch out for, especially with this 5-inch tower, I've found as I put it together, there tends to be little slivers of MDF that get left over on your tower. So if you ever find that it isn't quite slotting together all the way, it's probably because you just still have a slight little bit of wood that should be pretty easily removed. Once it is, if you make sure that the bottom legs of each tower pointed down, each one of these ends just kind of slot together like any sort of wood joinery. Place just a small bead of glue here where each of these teeth would join the empty ends. And then once you have all of them together, just like the previous platform, there will be notches up at the top of every one of these for the platform to fit through. I'm gonna go ahead and put together the rest of these platforms and show you what this terrain looks like once we have it all glued together. And thanks to our glue and a little bit of patience, we now have a beautiful set of scaffolding to play 1490 Doom with. But what good is the scaffolding if we have no Doom warriors to traverse it and to push off the side of it? Because there's no better experience than playing 1490 Doom and pushing your friends Leonidas style into the fog. So we're now going to move on to putting together our miniatures. Before you put together your miniatures, there is a couple tools you will need. Just like putting together our terrain, you'll want to make sure to have super glue handy so that we can mount these miniatures to the bases. I would recommend using a somewhat thin super glue, but any super glue that you have handy should work. Something to keep in mind is 1490 Doom miniatures are made of resin. So if you are familiar with Wargames and use plastic glue, that will not work in this particular case. Resin does require super glue in order to adhere to other resin or to plastic. You will also want to have some type of flush cutters or clippers that make it much safer and much easier to get rid of any small bits that you're struggling to remove from the sprue. Or in this particular case, our miniatures come on what is called a snap tray. This tray here holds all of your resin in place safely in packaging. Make sure that it preserves all the details and that nothing is broken before you take it off. But taking it off of this snap tray is very similar to taking pieces off of a sprue in order to build a miniature. We also recommend having handy a sharp knife. If you are under the age of 18, we hope that you enjoy our game, but we do not recommend that you put together these miniatures without having a trusted adult around. But hopefully that's a great experience that you can have with a parent or another trusted adult. Before we take these miniatures off of our snap tray, a kind of hidden, not necessarily well-known secret to pulling resin miniatures off of what we call supports is the use of heat. So I have here just a handy blow dryer. Any blow dryer will do, but generally applying just a small bit of heat to your miniatures before you attempt to remove them from the supports will actually soften not only the miniatures themselves, but the supports that are holding them in place. And as you can see, the contact points between each of these miniatures and the ends of these supports are actually quite small, which is by design. Many of these miniatures actually won't require clippers. They won't require a knife. If you were careful enough, you could easily remove some of these just by pulling them off. I'll just give you a quick example with this ladder here. With just a little bit of gentle pull, you can see all but a small amount of supports came off of this ladder just fine. I also like to turn my knife sideways and just very gently rub over edges where there were supports before, which helps just smooth out that area and eliminate any beads that might be left behind by the supports themselves. I could use my knife or my clippers to get rid of these supports as well, but just like it was pretty easy to pull this ladder off just with my fingers, pulling off these supports easy as well. But as you can see, the geometry on some of these miniatures that are still on the snap tray are a little bit more complicated than something like a ladder. So I'm going to apply a little bit of heat with this blow dryer, and then we'll be back in a second so that I can show you how much easier it comes off once you've applied a little heat to the support. And as you can see, before I actually hit these models of the blow dryer, these supports were very stiff, but just with a little bit of heat, they're actually quite pliable. So even though he's got supports under a shield, he's got supports under a spear, once you've applied a little bit of heat, you actually can get rid of most of these supports by just gently pushing with your finger in various areas. And as you can see here, Dirk the Fighter has come right off of the snap tray with just a little heat applied. Your clippers and your knife are going to be your best friend to get rid of just some of these small stray supports that are left behind. Before we take a look at any other miniatures, I want to show you the last step to putting one of these together, which is to mount them to the base. We need something to hold our miniatures upright so they can traverse across the battlefield. Adhering your miniature to the bases that are provided only really requires a little bit of glue, but I want to teach you a little secret that will help the glue adhere a little bit faster so that you spend less time holding your model in place waiting for it to dry. If you take your knife, and I'm actually going to score little lines into the boots pretty gently here, right? So now I've got all those straight lines kind of scored across. Then I'm going to turn the model so that I can score again, creating what we call a crosshatch. Because we've scored the model just a little bit, it will actually make our super glue adhere better, and it actually dries just a little bit faster. So now, as you can see, I didn't apply much glue, just a little bead. And then after I put on my glue, we'll turn Dirk over and we'll glue him down to the base. So as you can see, I only held Dirk in place for maybe a second or two, and because we've scored the model, it's going to adhere much better and dry much quicker. And it's in my best interest and your best interest when you're putting together these models to take your hands off of the miniature as soon as it can stand on its own. And then I'm just going to very gently set Dirk off to the side here. Now that we have Dirk all together, I moved on to pulling off another miniature from my sprue here, and unfortunately disaster has struck. Not really. I purposely pulled far too hard on my miniature to pull him off the sprue, because I know that some people who might not be as familiar with resin miniatures might jump excitedly to getting their miniatures off the snap tray onto bases, and might unfortunately run into a situation like this, where your beautiful scout model Klaus has unfortunately had his crossbow pulled from its hilt. If this happens, do not panic. Miniatures generally come in multiple pieces and are meant to be glued together. And although all of the miniatures that come in Outpost and Meerbridge are considered monopose miniatures and not made of multiple parts that need to be put together, if your models do break, it's okay. We can still fix it. So in this particular case, we're going to take Klaus and we're going to dry fit the piece where it broke to make sure that we can see exactly where his crossbow would connect if we wanted it to be perfectly flush. Because these breakages tend to happen in such a way that the piece actually only fits together perfectly one particular way, as you can see, just like so. So now that I've identified where it needs to slot in order to fix this, we're going to put a very small amount of glue on each of the connection points in which we want it to get back. And then we want to rather quickly grab the piece broken off here, place it back in place. And again, when it comes to super glue, the more that we move each individual piece, the less it's going to adhere. So I've slotted this crossbow right back where it should be, and in a fraction of a second, I've let go of the model as soon as it begins to adhere. And now we can set Klaus out to the side. And even though we all know that Klaus broke when I tried to pull him off of the supports, now that it's glued back together, people will be none the wiser. He looks beautiful. And after he dries, he'll still be ready to paint, and you can still use him on the board. And that's it. Now that you've put together all of your contents from the Outpost at Meerbridge, you're ready for your first games of 1490 Doom, where you can push, climb, and fight your way to victory.